What's going on, everybody? Today's video is going to be a Yeezy Supply and Adidas guide for Phantom. Now, I had asked everybody on my last live cop video about whether they wanted me to make this kind of video, and I got a lot of responses saying that they did want me to make this video, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. So this video is going to basically explain just about everything you'll need to know in order to cop on Yeezy Supply and Adidas. So yeah, let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is kind of how the sites work. So Yeezy Supply and Adidas are both demandware sites. Yeezy Supply used to be Shopify, where you'd be in a queue, but they've switched over to demandware. So what that means is you'll get a splash screen, which you probably already know. And so your task will be waiting on the splash screen, waiting to be let through. Now, your V3 invisible captcha score is what kind of determines the likelihood of you getting through the splash. So this score is easily, you can look that up. I wouldn't recommend testing it very often because it will lower it. But this score can be 0.3, 0.5, 0.7, or 0.9. And now you're going to need a 0.7 or 0.9 Gmail to get through this, to get to through the splash screen. So when you log into the captcha manager with this button right here, here, pulled it up. Once you've logged in with your Gmail, then you'll be able to harvest the V3 tokens and everything like that. But ultimately, your score will determine whether you're going to get through the queue or not. And I just want to say that your score is not the only thing. It's also a bit of luck as well. But having a 0.7 or 0.9 score will definitely increase your chances of getting through. Staying on the topic of the captcha manager, you don't necessarily need a proxy in here. This is auto-solve, this is for AYCD. You don't need that either. I've noticed there's some people that seem to have problems with it when using it for V3 or splash page releases. So I don't use auto-solve for that, and I don't put a proxy in here because my IP is not flagged by Google. Your IP can get flagged by Google if you solve too many captchas on it or that kind of thing, and you'll know it's flagged if you do the traditional captchas where you have to solve for the pictures and everything, and they're fading captchas and you have to like keep redoing them over and over again. It'll be pretty obvious that your IP is fairly flagged, or it won't even load at all. It'll say there's like an error connecting to reCAPTCHA service or something like that. If you've had that recently, then I would put a proxy in here, a DC proxy, preferably. And once you do that, make sure to hit save. That's all I can really say about the captcha manager. Just make sure you log in with a good Gmail. Preferably your personal Gmail, unless you have a good Gmail that you've been harvesting with AYCD or Essentials or Wraith. And if you do have one of those and you've been using a proxy with that, of course put that proxy in here. But if you just have a regular Gmail that's your personal Gmail, then you don't need one. I personally use my own Gmail and it works just great. So next we're going to move on to proxies. Alright, so proxies, there's really not a lot to talk about for splash page releases. Residentials or DCs work. I personally use residentials just because you can get more proxies that way instead of being limited to 25, 50, 75 or whatever that you'll get from DCs. Speed really doesn't matter. It's a splash page release. All these proxies have to do is not get banned. They just have to sit in splash, check every like 5-6 seconds or whatever your delay is set to. They just have to sit there. So speed really doesn't matter. And once you're into checkout, it doesn't have to be lightning quick either, since it's not a bunch of people going for the same thing at the same time. So next we're going to move on to cookies. So for cookies, a lot of people seem to be overthinking it. You don't need very many. You only really need them once you pass the splash screen and really to add to cart. You might need another one to do more of the checkout stuff, but really you should only need 1 to 2 after you've passed Splash for each task that passes Splash. If you watched my how to cop on foot sites video, the cookie gen method for that is almost identical. It's the same as what Jason K in the support for Ghost or Phantom has done, but I can show you real quick how to do it. So once you've set your VPN location and you start, we're going to try Yeezy Supply here, and you set your auto clicker to 5 seconds, you should be able to get some cookies pretty quickly. Once you load up your auto clicker, you can start that as well and get more cookies that way. But yeah, you really don't need that many. The site's kind of messed up right now. They have a timer up, so you won't get as many cookies that way. But once there's actual products on the page, just put your cursor on a blank spot on the screen and then just start your auto clicker with the settings that I had in that other video. I'll put a card so you can check it out. Just skip to that point in the video and you'll see how I set everything up. So again, with cookies, you don't need very many. I usually have way too many in my live cop videos. I don't need that many. I only needed a lot on Adidas because the Phantom payment thing wasn't working, so I kept trying to add to cart over and over and over again. But definitely you don't need very many, maybe 200 max for each site. A lot of people are trying to get thousands and you really don't need it at all. It's overkill, and the cookies don't last that long, so it's kind of pointless to generate that many because you're not going to check out. You're not even going to pass Splash 1,000 times. So next we're going to move on to profiles. Alright, for profiles, if you want to get multiples on Yeezy Supply and Adidas, you're going to need to jig your profiles. So I'm sure a lot of you know what that means, but if not, I can just show you real quick. There's a few methods to do it. So if your address is 111 Test Street, then you can do the method. If you're in anywhere this will work, actually, you can just put 3 letters at the beginning of your address and just keep everything else the same besides your phone number, email address, and obviously your payment information. But your name and this information here can stay the same across profiles. But switch up the letters you put, in other profiles and change your phone number, email address, and obviously your payment information. If the phone number can be whatever you want, you can make it up. They don't call you or anything. The email address, you can just make new emails, which really isn't that hard. Or you can use a catch-all email. I can make a video about that if you want me to. It's pretty easy. It costs like $9 a year for the domain, but it's really, really nice. If you do have a catch-all already and your domain is at test.com, in this email spot, just put your domain, and when Phantom checks out, it will create a randomized first part to your email, and so it'll change it every time, so you don't have to worry about it. The other method for jigging your address is to add a random apartment number. If you live in a house, obviously. If you live in an apartment, this isn't going to work. Just do the 3-letter jig at the beginning. You can do like apartment 1, apartment A, B, 1 or something like that. And that will also help you with jigging your address. Another thing I wanted to talk about with profiles is payment information. One thing that works really well is privacy cards for Yeezy Supply and Adidas. Privacy cards are great because they don't really get declined very often, and you can have any information in your shipping and billing. Like, it can be whatever you want, and it'll still go through. Like, your name can be different, your address can be almost whatever, and it'll still go through. Another thing good about privacy cards is that you can make a lot of them. I think you can make 12 unused cards before you have to use them for a purchase, before you can make new ones. With privacy cards, you're going to want to make merchant locked cards. So not the single use cards, merchant locked cards, and make sure your limit is high enough. If you set a limit, make sure your limit is high enough that for the shoes that you're buying. I've seen people get declined because their limits were too low, or they used single-use burner cards, which don't work nearly at all. I've had a lot of success with privacy cards in the past, and it's really easy to set up. So there's really no point in not doing it if you want to have a lot of profiles. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is just some tips and random information to ensure that you have the best chance possible of copying on the next Yeezy release. All right, so one of the main things that I've learned from Yeezy releases is to run a lot of tasks. Since it's a splash page and you're basically betting on luck to get through, the more tasks you have, the more likely you are going to get through. It's just a numbers game, really. And I see a lot of people with like 25 tasks being like, I can't get in, you know. I run 200 or more tasks on average. I haven't lately just because, or I didn't on the foam runner release just because I had no proxy data left and I had some DCs that I just threw in there. And I was in there from the beginning, and I think it was just luck that I got through twice, you know. But, you know, I see a lot of people with not running that many tasks and complaining about not being able to get through, and it's just because they had less chance because they didn't have as many tasks. Another thing to keep in mind is with a lot of tasks, you're going to need a lot of proxies and or proxy data. With 200 tasks on Yeezy Supply, I burn about 0.7 gigs, but I bet on a gig every time. So I buy 2 to 3 gigabytes of proxies going into a release if it's on Yeezy Supply and Adidas, just because Adidas uses a little bit more data, and especially if the drops run for 40, 45 minutes, an hour, you know, it just burns through your data. So make sure you have enough for what you're going to be doing. Another big thing that I've learned is to just keep running through errors. A lot of people freak out when they see like error getting splash or connection error getting splash, like just pop up for a second, you know, or it'll just be stuck on got v3 token. I've had that every time. If you go back and watch my live cops, you'll see I get errors thrown in all the time. It's okay. Like, keep running through it. Don't freak out. If all of your tasks say connection error at once, then maybe you have a proxy issue, but if you see it show up a few times, it's probably not a big deal. One thing that I see people asking about is multi-sizing. If you wanted a size range of 7 through 10, it's just 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5, and so on. You don't have to put the 0.0 behind it. It's literally just like this, and it'll work. Another thing people ask about is delays. Always refer to the Phantom Discord for release help for retry and error delay, but most of the time it's 5,000 or more. I usually run 5,500 just because if the drop is taking a while or I'm trying to conserve some proxy data, I might bump it up to 10,000. That really doesn't matter that much either. Just don't run it lower than 5,000 because you have a risk of your proxies getting banned. And there's no need to really check it every second or every half second or whatever. The last thing I really wanted to talk about was that you can get multiple shoes with the same profile. Like you can get 2 with the same profile on Yeezy Supply or 2 with the same profile on Adidas. It's happened to me and I haven't had any problems with it. So don't freak out if you get 2 pairs on one profile and worry about them getting canceled or something like that. You're probably good. If one get canceled, you know, it's not a big deal, but you can get multiple with the same profile, and I don't think they seem to care that much unless you get like 4 or 5 with the same information. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something. I hope that I've been helpful. I tried to compile a list of everything that I see people asking questions about, or in the Phantom Discord, or even on my channel and in the comments. I know you guys have been kind of waiting for this Phantom was actually down for like a day yesterday. I was going to do it, but I ran out of, I couldn't open Phantom because they had a server error or whatever. You'll know what I'm talking about if you own Phantom. But yeah, I hope I could help you guys out. If you have any other questions, I hope I could answer everything. But if you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll get back to you. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of stuff, and turn on notifications if you want to be notified of when I post live cops or anything like that. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.